Good afternoon, everybody. It's Nicole here. I'd like to welcome you to this webinar today. I hope you have as much bright sunshine as we do here today. You can't see me, but I'm here. But we're going to start with a brief presentation and then sort of switch over to a webcast format where we can have a conversation or I can answer questions. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nicole Harnett. I'm the Program Director for the Masters of Health Science and Medical Radiation Sciences program offered through the IMS in collaboration with UTDRO at the University of Toronto. I'm also joined by Caitlin Gillen, who's the Associate Director for Curriculum in the Master's program. What I want to do is start with a brief presentation and overview of our program, what it looks like, what the eligibility requirements are, and then we'll move into a question and answer. There's about a 40-second time lag between what's happening in real time and what's happening at your end of the webinar. So patience is a virtue, and it might feel a little bit stilted and awkward, but such is the technology of virtual conversation. For those of you who are logged in through webinars on air, you have a chat function on the right-hand panel of your interface. So what you're looking at, you should have the opportunity to open up a chat function. If there's any of you that have logged in through the YouTube link, you unfortunately don't have the chat function. So you won't be able to submit questions that you have. Hopefully your colleagues who are on the line may have similar questions and be able to submit them. But what I will tell you is once the webinar is over, I will put up my email address and you can submit any questions or comments or thoughts you have to me offline after the webinar is over. So I thank you for joining us. And without further ado, I want to just jump into a brief presentation that I think will give you a good overview of the program and form a good basis for discussion afterwards. So the presentation is brief, but I'm going to go through what's in a graduate program. We have been having a lot of conversation in the radiation therapy community about graduate education, and one program is not the same as another is the same as another. So I want to sort of try and unpack that for you. I want to review the goals and objectives of our particular program. I'll review the two-year curriculum and student requirements in the program. I want to talk about the eligibility criteria and what that means to applicants. I want to review the funding possibilities, and then we'll get to answering your questions or having a general discussion. So if you have been interested in graduate education in recent years, you know that there's a number of letters. It's like an alphabet soup of graduate opportunities that you have available to you. There's MSc, MHSC, MASC, MEd, MBA, MHSC, MRS, which is us, and there's probably a constellation of others that may have been brought to your attention or that you have found in your search. In general, an MSc is a basic science degree. It's usually research-based, thesis-based, and is a deep dive into a subject area where you would become a research or content matter expert. It's not necessarily related to clinical practice. An MHSC, which is a Master's of Health Science, you find a lot in the area of health policy or health administration. And these are valuable if you actually want to go in those directions of administration, management, or health policy. A Master's of Applied Health Science is a common term given to graduate programs that build on existing clinical expertise or knowledge. They are seen to be not as rigorous as a research-based or a thesis-based Master's of Science. So the applied signifies the application of scientific knowledge to an area of practice or professional practice. MEd, I think, is pretty clear, and people who are interested in furthering their career in the educational domain would probably be interested in a health professional education master's program of some sort, and those are available in a variety of institutions. Obviously, if you want to climb the corporate or management ladder, an MBA might be what you're looking for. These would clearly align with leadership positions, senior management positions, project management positions, and won't necessarily be restricted to radiation therapy, but could be applicable beyond. And then our program is a Master's of Health Science in Medical Radiation Sciences, and it's what we call a professional master program. So what a professional master's program is a program that's squarely aligned with your area of professional practice. This particular degree is what we call a terminal degree because it doesn't directly feed into a doctoral program. There are opportunities and there are mechanisms that make it possible if you do complete a professional master's program to go on to a PhD level program. But it's not a de facto move like it would be if you had a Master's of Science and you wanted to move on to a PhD. The goals and objectives, very briefly, for our particular program are advanced clinical practice. So our program is built with a focus on, or a focus for people who want to advance their knowledge, skills, and judgment in clinical radiation therapy. If you, as I mentioned, if you want to be an educator or if you want to be a benchtop scientist, this is not the program for you. This is definitely for somebody who wants to maintain some aspect of clinical practice and advance their skills in that area. One of our other goals is also to develop scholarly or academic competence. So to understand the scientific method and how it applies to our professional practice, how to undertake action research, to move us along a continuum from research conscious into research active and professional leadership. So there are elements in this program around, being a leader, being a mentor, how to contribute to strategic planning activities, program evaluation activities, team management, change management, but it's not the focus of the overall program. As we state, and you'll find more information about this on our website, we feel that the graduates of our program will be able to assume or create positions that capitalize on the advanced knowledge, skills, and judgment in clinical practice and research. I want to clarify right at the start that this doesn't equate to being an advanced practice radiation therapist or to being a clinical specialist radiation therapist. There are elements that create synergies, but finishing a master's program in radiation therapy does not automatically give you the right to take on that title of advanced practice radiation therapist or clinical specialist radiation therapist. There are activities underway that will make that possible and create a professionally designated title for advanced practice, but the academic graduate program is separate from a professional title or credential. We hope that our graduates will be able to contribute to the advancement of radiation medicine. So by participating in the interprofessional team of radiation medicine to bring radiation therapy perspectives and advance them within the interprofessional team. We expect that our graduates will be able to improve the way we treat cancer and provide care for our patients because they will be at the front lines investigating new ways of practicing. And we believe that our graduates will be able to accelerate the pace of innovation in radiation therapy through research and academic endeavors. To give you a brief overview of the program, it is an 8 full credit equivalent program. We offer it in 2 formats. One is a 2-year full-time program. The second is a 3-year, what we call extended full-time program. So you do the 8 credits over 3 years instead of 2 years. The program is designed for expert radiation therapy clinicians who want to build their practice expertise and expand their academic competence and contribution in an area of specialization that is their choice. The program is composed of coursework, so there's required and elective courses, clinical internships, and what we call a master's research project. So the master's research project is not quite the equivalent of a thesis, but it does imply that there is a requirement for some original inquiry and research in the program to develop those skills. The program is modular and what we call a blended format. So it allows for approximately 90% of the curriculum to be done from your home environment. And I'll explain a little bit more of that as we move through the presentation and through our discussion. There are 4 semesters that are course-based. There is, in the first 4 semesters, a requirement to be in Toronto for 1 week in each of those semesters for on-campus programming, and it's designed to create a community of learners, so you get to know who you're learning with and to do some of the face-to-face work that will be a platform for ongoing curriculum that will be delivered online. The coursework ranges over the 4 semesters from 2 to 3 courses per semester. Each course probably has 2 to 3 hours required of contact time, and some of that contact time will be synchronous, meaning that you have to be online at a scheduled time. And some of it will be asynchronous in that you will be given a link to a video or you'll be given a reading assignment that you can do when the time is suitable for you. In the final 2 semesters, we have our clinical internship and research project. The clinical internship for the full-time 2-year program requires 25 hours of contribution to your clinical internship. If you're in the extended full-time program, the minimum number of hours per week is 16 hours per week in your area of specialization. So your clinical internship is a custom designed experience that you design with your supervisors in the clinical environment where you're going to complete your internship. And we work together to decide what skills and what competencies you're going to develop in your area of specialization. So it's your choosing based on what you're interested in, what's available at your center, and is negotiated over time. The interesting thing or something that I want to emphasize at this point is that for the most part, we have, it's been possible for students in the program to work. The vast majority of the students have been able to work full-time. Some of the students have chosen to have a reduced workload during the clinical internship, but for the most part, the way that the synchronous activities are scheduled, students have been able to work full-time. This is what the 2-year full-time program looks like. So you can see what the mandatory courses are related to advanced radiotherapy and medical physics, frontiers in radiation medicine research, clinical competence and continuous learning, professional and clinical leadership, translational radiobiology, clinical reasoning and decision-making in radiotherapy is a 2-semester session, improving cancer outcomes with survivorship research. And then we have our focus on developing your research project. There's an opportunity for 2 electives that you can choose to augment your knowledge or skills in an area of interest or that aligns with your area of specialization. And those have been quite diverse for the individual student, and you work with the program director to decide what those electives will be. And then the last 2 semesters are designed to be your internship and the completion of your research project. You can find actually the 3-year extended full-time program layout on our website. Basically, there's a fair proportion of the programming that's delivered through our Blackboard interface. And this is just actually a snapshot of what it looks like when you're online with people that you're working with. And so you can see people that you're learning with and being taught by. So you can see on the right-hand side, there's some sort of slide that a slide deck or a video or a piece of work that's being displayed. And on the left-hand side in the top corner, you can see there's a speaker, and then there's a number of people underneath who are all connected through webcams. And so we have video and audio connectivity during the synchronous sessions. In fact, that the slide that's being demonstrated is an illustration of what we think is one of the goals of graduate education in radiation therapy, in that we see that a large proportion of radiation therapy, that the majority of radiation therapists practice in a research conscious way. So evidence-based practice and being aware that inquiry leads to change and innovation. And if you see something that needs changing, it's incumbent upon you to initiate activities in that regard. There's a research participative section, and we hope that we move our students in our program through the research participative element into research active. So we think that a vibrant and robust radiation therapy team is comprised of some members from each of this group, and we hope that by completing our master's program, we move people to the research active area of that group. This is just another example of the online learning portal where you can see, an instructor is posting assignments and readings, evaluation forms for students to do in an offline or asynchronous manner. So you've probably heard the term inverted curriculum, and this is what we try to facilitate with our online learning, such that we try not to spend as much time lecturing as opposed to having you prepare yourself and inform yourself about the content area. And then when we're online, we try to have facilitated discussions. We like to have presentations from fellow students and an interactive discussion about the topics of the day. So the eligibility criteria, you have to be a registered MRT or a certified RTT or eligible for such. You have to have graduated from a recognized 4-year bachelor's degree in medical radiation sciences or equivalent. You need to have a minimum grade point average of B+ over the final 2 years of full-time undergraduate studies. You have to have completed a minimum of 3 years of professional practice within 5 years of application. English language proficiency must be demonstrated, and that's all, according to the School of Graduate Studies policies and procedures. So we're 100% aligned with them in that regard. I think the important thing to speak about at this point is that there is a point in time in the application process or for an applicant where their undergraduate degree experience becomes less important, and what becomes more important is the content of their professional CV. If you've been out of school for 5 years or more, that's at a point where what you've contributed to or what you've undertaken as a practicing professional becomes more highly weighted or more heavily weighted in the admissions decision. So if you have participated with your professional associations or completed committee work or done presentations or posters, or you're engaged in committees where you're working on patient care guidelines or working on program evaluation or you're on an evidence-based guidelines team, those are the things that start to to resonate more heavily with the admissions committee. As well as the grade point average becomes less of a focus once you've been out of undergraduate education for 5 years or more. So that's something that I really wanted to emphasize during this presentation. In general, the 4-year degree needs to be from a recognized university, but there are opportunities to consider other educational credentials or experiences that replace educational credentials. So all of those things need to be kept in mind. Funding opportunities, this is something that we get asked about quite frequently, and the U of T does have entry awards. They've also got open fellowships that are available to students, who maintain high averages after the first year of study. There are Faculty of Medicine bursaries for students who are in the program. They are needs-based and require an application to illustrate need. We have Ontario graduate scholarships that students can apply for. There are professional association bursaries, so the CAMRT Foundation provides educational bursaries. Your local or your provincial association may have bursary opportunities or scholarship opportunities. I know that we have them here in Ontario, and I expect you probably have them in other provinces. In Ontario, we also have the Allied Health Professional Development Fund, which has been quite willing to support our students with the maximum amount on an annual basis. And there may be other opportunities in your province for government funding for professional development. We've also found through experience and through digging that a lot of local hospitals or local health authorities actually have professional development awards and bursaries. Oftentimes they're related to nursing or to health professional groups that are more larger than radiation therapy, but through some investigation and some lobbying, they've actually been made available to radiation therapists. So there's always an opportunity to sort of beat the bushes in your local institution with your local department, even to find pockets of money to support you either in your research or during your clinical internship or towards your tuition. And then there's also the opportunity for research funding. So a lot of research work that happens in our radiotherapy departments or our radiation oncology departments are funded by research. And if you find that your area of interest aligns with research that's taking place, you may be able to negotiate a small stipend to bite off a bit of that research, a small package of it that can be accomplished. So a lot of it has to do with on-the-ground networking and finding out where your supporters are and where your opportunities are. We actually have on our website a document that we've put together that addresses frequently asked questions. So when we go around and present to departments, there are some questions that are very commonly asked, and you can go online. I wasn't going to go through the whole thing, but it's definitely there for you to look at or to print off and take home and think about. I wanted to provide all of that as a basic overview for you about the program and some of the issues that we think are important and that we get asked on a regular basis. And we'd be willing at this point in time to open up our discussion board or our chat room for questions from you guys. Just going to give Evan a moment to get us up to speed and to account for our 40-second delay. So just bear with us for a minute. So if you have any questions, you can use the chat function on the right-hand side, or if you have any comments, we're more than happy to hear from you, whether we've addressed any of your burning questions or if we've missed something. Caitlin, is there anything that you wanted to add that we haven't touched on?
I think the interesting element, and you saw some of the screen captures of some of our methods of bringing groups together synchronously at the same time, but that one session that was captured up there is one where we had guest faculty from different places in the country, and we actually had one of our students was in Singapore at the time, which is where she's right now doing her clinical practicum. So the interest in that, one of the values of this program and this model is how exciting it is to have those opportunities, that we can really find the clinical expert in a certain area and bring them in, and that the students can talk about experiences in completely different types of work environments. So that's one of the real benefits, is seeing how things happen in different places and really having the experts on any given topic area, which is cool.
So we had a question from Natasha, who has asked us what is the full cost of the program. So the annual tuition fee plus student fees is roughly $10,000 a year. It changes each year. Obviously, it goes up every year, and the actual tuition fee for this upcoming year, I don't know it precisely off the top of my head. So for the full-time program, if you're in the 2-year program, it costs roughly $10,000 a year. If you're taking the 3-year extended full-time program, the tuition fee is actually prorated. So you'd be taking sort of 2/3 of the curriculum each year for 3 years. So you would pay 2/3 of the tuition each year. So it actually works out to be basically the same. I have a question from Sarah out in Grand River. Oh, I think that I've answered your question, Sarah, that the cost is prorated. So if the annual tuition fee is $10,000, somebody in the 3-year stream would pay $6,700 per year. And Natasha's asking, can the clinical practical be broken down time-wise? I'm not sure that I understand your question. Do you mean, can it be, do you want to know what is involved in the 25 hours, or are you asking if it can be further piecemealed out below 16 hours a week? So Natasha, if you can just clarify for me what you're looking for. Susan, does this program operate on a cost recovery basis for the U of T? No, it does not. This is a cost deficit program. This is, for lack of a better word, charity work on the part of UTDRO. We have a faculty and an administration who believe strongly in this initiative in developing radiation therapy for the future and for the development of radiation medicine. So the faculty are engaged in the program and for not a cost recovery paradigm model.
And I think along those lines, the other thing, we're never going to be a program of 50 students in one class, and that's along with the, that sort of addresses the cost element, but also what the classes are going to look like. So imagine a class of 4 or 5 students engaged in an online environment. It's not sort of 2 or 3 faculty speaking to a large anonymous class. This is a group that becomes quite tight-knit and has a lot of opportunity for engagement, and that's something that we would never want to lose in a program like that. So, and the volumes out there for every single person in the country to want to pursue this type of academic adventure anyway. But that's just what the sessions would look like, is a much smaller class size than we're probably used to in our undergraduate work.
So Natasha's just clarified what she's talking about. So I have 2 things I want to point out. First of all, for students who are not from the GTA or not from a U of T affiliated center, we have a process in place where your center can apply to be accredited as a training site where you can complete your clinical practicum. So it involves sort of an accreditation document that shows that your department is positioned favorably to give you the kind of experience that we think you need to complete your graduate requirements. Most major cancer centers in Canada, I think, would meet that minimum benchmark. But if you did decide you had to or wanted to travel, the way that the clinical internships work is that the program believes there's a minimum threshold of time you have to spend immersed in your in your clinical development to actually get anything from it, to get enough momentum or to get enough experience to build on from week to week to week. So I guess if you were traveling to do your internship, I would say that the total number of hours, which is 25, so it's 400 hours per semester. If you push that all together in a concentrated time, and instead of doing 25 hours a week, you did 37 or 40 hours a week, you could probably reduce that to 3 months, take a month off, and then do 3 months and take a month off. I think that other than that, the lowest that we really want to go on a weekly basis is 16 hours, because we felt that 2 days a week, anything less than 2 days a week probably wasn't enough to create a fluid clinical internship that built upon, you know, knowledge from week to week to week. I hope that answers your question, Natasha, and I'm certainly happy to discuss it more with you. What does the 1 week residency for the first 4 semesters consist of? So we call them institutes, and they differ from semester to semester. And just to be clear, there's only an institute required in the first 3 semesters, and for the full year or for the full-time 2-year program. It depends on what the courses are that are running in that semester. The first semester is an orientation to the program, to our online platform. You meet your faculty. We go through some group activities around learning styles and group work. You get some of your initial content for your first courses in that semester. The second semester institute is generally focused squarely on radiobiology. So you come here and you spend a week at our radiobiology course, which is a very intensive translational radiobiology session that's interprofessional with radiation oncology residents, medical physics residents, biomedical physics residents, and other professionals who come to the course. The third institute is a lot of group work, and again, it's content relevant to the courses that you're taking. And I think that institute was only 4 days, wasn't it? Yeah.
So I think the value is really, it's not just, we're not meeting some requirement of face-to-face time. It's really things that were consciously chosen for the fact that they aren't as well replicated online, and there was a real value to them. So we had a physics hands-on lab in the first semester last year. So it's things that we don't want to lose the value of the content solely because of the model that we chose to deliver it. And there's always also the true benefit, especially at the beginning of the program, of being able to engage in the sort of more social, informal way with both the faculty and the students, so we really know who each other is moving forward at that point.
I have actually a similar question from Rose and from Sarah. The 25-hour clinical internship works separate from your work hours. So in some instances, students have had the kind of work where they were able to schedule flexible hours for their work so that they could do their internship, which primarily consists of going to new patient clinics or working with the physicians, you know, not in the radiotherapy department. So the two things are very separate, and they are negotiated based on what you want your internship to be. So in some cases, well, in all cases, the internship hours are not paid hours of work. You would negotiate working hours around the schedule that you need to have for your internship. And I hope I'm making that clear. If not, please let me know and add a follow-up question.
There is the model that might be if you needed to stay working full-time. There are a number of different models. Some centers would allow you perhaps to go to a 12-hour day in your working day, leaving a day or two a week, 2 days a week to put towards your practicum. There are also models, there's a student right now who's completing it where it might be in a clinic, in a breast clinic with a physician for most of the morning, coming in fairly early in the morning, doing work relating to the practicum, then being coming back to the treatment unit for most of the afternoon to meet a requirement for work hours, and then slotting some other practicum type work in follow-up phone calls to patients or whatever needs to happen that's related to the practicum. So it would make for some long days and for some creativity on the part of your home program, but it is possible. So that would be, it would depend on what you wanted to pursue. If you wanted to work in a palliative clinic or in a direct frontline type role, and what your practicum was looking at in with respect to how flexible it would be. It's not something, a practicum is not something you could do outside of normal clinic hours for the most part, because it would require that level of engagement in the workday.
Yeah, I mean, and it depends what your internship is made up of. In some instances, students are trying to master image fusion and GTV contouring, GTV and CTV contouring. So certainly they can do those patients for their internship outside of regular working hours. And Natasha says, and the practicum is based in your area of interest. Yes, that's our hope. Our hope is that students come into the program right from the start with areas that they're interested in. It doesn't mean that you're locked into anything, but a lot of the work that's done in the course is to further your knowledge, skills, and judgment in something that you're interested in, if it's pediatrics or if it's breast or if it's palliative or
taking that deeper dive into some of those. So palliative might be looking at things like patient assessment and basic prescriptions and working in those clinics and conducting some reviews and looking at things like that. Or it could be something that's seen sort of separate from a psych group or something. We had a student in the last couple of years who took on sexual health as a clinical practicum, and that one really needed to sort of be built around her interest, and ended up being something that the department was found quite valuable in this role that she sort of created for herself in this area that she wanted to explore.
And in fact, they ended up
hiring her,
building a job for her.
Yeah. So there are lots of different, right now there's a focus in exercise and nutrition is a focus of one of our students. So it's taking something that's of interest sort of almost tangentially to radiation therapy and bringing it in and making it relevant and using that advanced knowledge of radiation therapy as well as that other domain, and bringing them together in sort of a novel way.
Natasha's asking if you could do more than one area. I don't see why not. I don't see.
We'd probably need to have some sort of thread that linked it together into something that you could wrap into something. You will have a research project that is likely aligned with that, and to gain the level of expertise required.
So the clinical internship is assessed. There's a number of assessments. There is you have every student has an on-site clinical supervisor and a program-related supervisor. There are some competency assessments. There are some assignments that need to be done. Students develop a competency development plan that highlights the skills, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that or judgment that they plan to acquire, how they're going to get there, what resources they need, and what kind of evidence that they will show that they've actually acquired those competencies. So we build those together before the students start their internship, so that everybody knows what the focus of the student is while they're in there. And then we use concordance data or sign off by radiation oncologists, or submission of assignments or cases for assessment. And it's a pass-fail, just so you know. Well, we're at 1:25. If there are no more questions for the live webinar, I will thank you all for joining us. My email address, you can email me at any time with additional questions. It's nicole.harnett@utoronto.ca. And I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can with any questions that you have. Our application deadline this year is May 1st, and that requires all your online information to be submitted, and then May 15th for any documentation and paperwork that needs to be submitted in hard copy. So you can visit our website, you can email me, or that's it. And I think that this is going to be available on YouTube. So this webinar is going to be available on YouTube, and you can, if you have any colleagues that you think might be interested, you can refer them to the YouTube link, and they too can watch the webinar. So thank you for joining us, and have a great day. Bye.